Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, may we rise for the national anthem. Apologies. We'll be taking the first and second stanza only. Thank you. You may please be seated. Good morning, Mr. Governor, deans of schools present, esteemed faculty, policymakers, students, captains of the business and finance industry, and our distinguished guests. On behalf of the Central Bank of Nigeria and our gracious host, Lagos Business School, I warmly welcome you to a landmark moment, the inaugural maiden edition of the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor's Annual Lecture Series. A round of applause, please. My name is Onyinyechi Aderibigbe, and it is my absolute pleasure and honor to compare this event today. The Central Bank of Nigeria recognizes that economic leadership in today's world demands not just technical precision, but also transparency, dialogue, and shared understanding. That is why this initiative brings together academia, policy, and industry to engage in real conversations about the future of Nigeria's economy. And what better partner to launch this with than the Lagos Business School, a hub of critical thinking and future leadership. And this collaboration between Lagos Business School and the Central Bank of Nigeria reflects a shared commitment to knowledge, national growth, and responsible stewardship of our economic future and destiny. As we mark the second anniversary of the governor's leadership at the Central Bank, this lecture series stands as a signature initiative, not just to reflect on the journey so far, but to also set a clear, confident path forward. Let this be the beginning of a tradition where policy meets perspective, where ideas meet action, and where the Central Bank of Nigeria continues to lead, to listen, and to learn alongside the people it serves. Welcome once again, and let the dialogue begin. I'd like to kindly ask that we put a round of applause together for yourselves, first of all, for the Central Bank of Nigeria, and of course for Lagos Business School. Would like to also recognize the various academic institutions in our midst today. So if you hear your institution, it would be lovely, and I'm speaking to the students now and faculty present, it would be lovely to represent your institution with a round of applause and a cheer, if you may. Would like to recognize the University of Lagos. Absolutely. Would like to also recognize Lagos State University. Would like to recognize Yaba College of Technology, who have just recently been renamed. And of course, coming to the home turf, would like to recognize our hosts, Lagos Business School and Pan Atlantic University, of which I am a proud alumna. Without further ado, would like to give you the official welcome address, the Dean of Lagos Business School, Pan Atlantic University, Professor Olayinka David West. Thank you very much.
Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Kindly permit me to stand on established protocols. I'm deeply honored today to welcome you all to Lagos Business School of Pan Atlantic University, Nigeria's premier business school and what we call an oasis of sanity. Since its inception in 1991, Lagos Business School has sought to develop responsible leaders who will inspire Africa's growth by creating and disseminating knowledge in business and management. This aspiration extends beyond the classroom, encompassing partnerships like these that aim to foster thought leadership, policy engagement, and in-depth discourse. At LBS, this stage has served as a platform to inform, educate, and engage, where, for example, newly appointed professors present their academic work to the public. Another advantage of this platform is that it fosters engagement between town and gown, bridging the nexus between academia, the public and private sectors, and civil society. It is in this light that this stage has hosted business, government, and diplomatic leaders, such as David Cameron, the former British Prime Minister, Richard Mills, the US Ambassador to Nigeria, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, the WTO Deputy Director General, and Wole Adeyemo, the Deputy Secretary of the US Department of Treasury. And now, our own very Mr. Olayemi Cardoso at the maiden edition of the CBN Governor's Lecture Series. Mr. Governor, I would like to extend special greetings and a warm welcome to you on behalf of all of us, especially our Vice Chancellor, Professor Enase Okunedo. She sends her regards and appreciates all the support she received from you and the advisory board during her tenure as Dean. The CBN Governor's Lecture Series is a flagship platform and part of the Governor's broader knowledge acceleration and thought leadership initiative, which is central to the central bank's strategy of deepening public understanding and strengthening monetary policy transmission. 2 years ago, at the Senate confirmation hearing, the governor, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, and his deputy governors promised compliance, accountability, and transparency. We all expected that to be within the government circles. This CBN Governor's Lecture Series is a fulfillment of this promise and a framework for such accountability. Thank you, Mr. Governor, for honoring your promise and your willingness to use this platform as a testament to your commitment to openness and transparency. To the faculty, business leaders, and students in the audience, let us not just listen, but engage. Ask the questions, challenge the status quo. Nigeria belongs to us all. Through your active participation, we can transform this lecture into a catalyst for new generation leadership and nation building. Finally, I would like to acknowledge and appreciate the exceptional planning team and partners. From the Governor's Office, Dr. Nkiru Balonu, the Advisor on Strategic Communication and Stakeholder Engagement, and her team, the Nairometrics team, Creative Intelligence Group, Wow Connect, and of course, the amazing LBS team, from the Dean's Office to our janitors, security, and catering units. Thank you all for joining us. I officially welcome you to the maiden edition of the CBN Lecture Series. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Olayinka David West, the Dean, Lagos Business School, Pan Atlantic University. If I could please ask that you indulge me and give her another round of applause as she takes her seat. Thank you very much. I understand that we currently have an overflow and we have students, faculty, and guests joining us from various parts of the premises. And so to those in the overflow, we recognize you as well. We welcome you and we thank you for being a part of this program. We'd also like to recognize the presence of the Lagos State University of Education. If you're here, please, with a round of applause. Thank you very much. We move on now to setting the context and to do justice to this next agenda. Please, with another round of applause, which I'd be requesting quite often from you today, please welcome Mr. Mohammed Zayed from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Governor. Good morning, DGs, distinguished faculty and students of the Lagos Business School, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm here to provide just a context of why we're all gathered here today, and in the interest of time, I'll keep it very, very brief. So I'd like to welcome you all to the inaugural edition of the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria's annual lecture series. So the lecture series is part of the Central Bank of Nigeria's Knowledge Acceleration and Thought Leadership Initiative. So this is an initiative where the Central Bank of Nigeria collaborates with leading institutions across the nation and brings together stakeholders, businesses, academia, students, to discuss issues that are very critical to Nigeria's economic trajectory. It's an initiative that we're very excited about. We hope that it will help to foster policy dialogue and deepen understanding of monetary policy, especially how monetary policy interacts with nation building. We also hope that it's an initiative that will empower the next generation of future leaders to help them to strive towards the stability that Nigeria needs. So without much further ado, I'd like to welcome you all again, and I'll hand over back to Onyinyechi. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Mr. Mohammed Zayed. We'll be moving on now to one of the highlights of today's discourse. And to introduce our keynote speaker, I'd like to welcome the Dean, School of Management and Social Science at Pan Atlantic University, Professor Shola Oni. Please, with a round of applause, let's welcome her as she introduces and welcomes our keynote speaker for today. Let's keep the round of applause going until she gets here, please. Thank you very much. 1 second, please. Forgive me, it seems I'm excited to get to the keynote speaker's address. I've jumped what is supposed to come next, and I sincerely apologize. To lead us in a spoken word performance before we hear from our keynote speaker, would like to welcome Ms. Toluwanimi Oyeyemi as she comes forward. A round of applause for her, please. And my apologies once more. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. My name is Oyeyemi Adeoye. I'm a storyteller. Now, before I continue, with a show of hands, please mention or state if you have ever entered a yellow bus in Lagos. Anybody? Ah, fantastic. I have my audience. So I'll be taking us through a short journey. It's not a poem, it's more of a story, but I'll require your imagination. It's a little bit of attention, right? Now, imagine that you are a young Nigerian who is working a 9 to 5 and living in Lagos. That's all. Are we ready? Let's go. It's dark, and the skies are having a good cry. You're about to join in after seeing the traffic that has built up in the blink of an eye. You're partially drenched, about to pop an umbrella that is disgracefully bent. You're lucky. You found a bus after standing half an hour at the bus stop. But before you enter, you stop. In 5 seconds, you scan and profile the bus, its driver, and conductor. Your assessment will determine if they are potential abductors. Did you see a no pain, no gain plastered on the bus? Or poor quality stickers of a popular musician? Did the conductor scream in your ears that he does not have change or wale pelu change? Or are they collecting twice the fare because of the combo deal of rain and traffic? If yes, then you're in good hands. You almost lose your spot based on your assessment, and you end up in the makeshift seats close to the door. You know, coming next is the body of the conductor, whom you have to share a non-existent space with. The bus starts to move, and you start to notice, or something comes to your attention, that it's just a box with an engine. There Suddenly there is cause for worry. The windshield is blurry. There are no wipers or side mirrors. All that can be seen by everyone are shapes and lights. Let's not even talk about lights. The windows can only be pulled up and down by very strong hands. You are folded in discomfort on a moving seat that was clearly designed by someone who is an enemy of comfort. You try not to dwell on the attention when your attention is drawn to the synergy unfolding before your eyes. You see, if there were side mirrors, they would have been mere decorations because the conductor can very well see the front, the back, the sides. Think 360. You know, your Google Maps would have been pure speculations because the conductor can very well see, well, the conductor would jump down to see what the problem is and jump back to provide a solution, legal or illegal. The absent wipers have been replaced by the conductor's very able hands, and a towel that shields at the sun from the rain and sun, and a towel that shields from, a towel that stands as a shield from the sun and rain. You're in luck again. The conductor is an aspiring musician or comedian, sometimes both, and you cannot help but laugh even if you are the butt of the joke. Strangely, their care is not just for the road. The conductor helps the woman balancing her baby and load while handing out to everybody what they are owed. The driver slows for the old man who cannot jump down fast, even if the traffic insults him at his back. As you jiggle and juggle in this boss, your mind wanders from I must learn how to drive to I should save for a car and finally downgrades to I need to buy a new umbrella. But something else settles in your chest. What happens when you have to lead in less than ideal situations, where you inherit more problems than solutions, with complaints as contributions, yet everyone expects you to stare forward as your ride is projected to the whole world? You see, the driver and conductor are like men betting on a rigged game. They are stuck in traffic, soaked in rain, dragging along a bus that has no business being on any lane, but still, the goal is simple: get to the final bus stop. They prove that even with everything working against you, motion is still possible. Now you see that every breakdown is a chance to rewire your thinking. Now you see that caring for people on board matters as much as the steering. But what you can see very clearly is that you need help during your rainy nights. Those who would help you conduct as you drive, whose face towels will be shared when your wipers stop working, who will become side mirrors as you start to lose your perspective. Because on the journey to the next, we need to be a collective. There's a jerk. The bus stops at the final bus stop. And you're knocked back to reality when you're joined in unholy matrimony with a fellow commuter because it did not wale pelu change. Thank you.
A very wonderful performance indeed, and I think that one of the things that drive it home is that a lot of us, if not all of us in this room, can definitely relate to that story, some even on their way here today. Thank you very much, Ms. Toluwanimi Oyeyemi. Please, another round of applause for her. Thank you very much. And now, I'd like to welcome our Dean of School of Management and Social Science at Pan Atlantic University as she introduces our keynote speaker in just a moment. Ladies and gentlemen, another round of applause for Professor Shola Oni. Thank you very much.
Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Mr. Olayemi Michael Cardoso is the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, appointed in September 2023, where he leads the nation's monetary authority at a pivotal moment for Nigeria's economic stability. In recognition of his leadership and reform-driven approach, he was named Central Bank Governor of the Year at the 2025 African Banker Awards. A seasoned leader, public policy expert, and financial sector professional, Mr. Governor brings over 4 decades of experience spanning banking, development economics, and governance. He previously served as the first Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget for Lagos State, where he pioneered far-reaching reforms that institutionalized evidence-based policy making and fiscal discipline, helping to position Lagos as one of Africa's most dynamic economies. In the private sector, Mr. Governor has held senior leadership positions across the financial services industry, including as chairman of Citibank Nigeria. He also served on the boards of several leading corporations and non-profit organizations, contributing his expertise in finance, corporate governance, and sustainable development. Internationally, Mr. Cardoso has provided strategic guidance to a range of global institutions on economic development, urban policy, and financial sector reform. An advocate for good governance, accountability, and inclusivity, Mr. Cardoso's leadership at the Central Bank of Nigeria is marked by a commitment to restoring confidence, ensuring price stability, deepening the financial system, and positioning Nigeria as a competitive player in the global economy. Mr. Governor holds a bachelor's degree in managerial and administrative studies from Aston University in the UK, and a master's degree in public administration from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government as a Mason Fellow. He is also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Stockbrokers and an honorary fellow of the Chartered Institute of Bankers of Nigeria. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Governor, Mr. Olayemi Michael Cardoso.
Please sit down, please. Thank you. I'm not sure these microphones were meant for people like me. I think next time round I'll bring my own. Distinguished faculty and students of the Lagos Business School, esteemed colleagues from government and industry, captains of industry, fellow policy makers, and most importantly, the next generation. Good morning. Let me begin by commending Lagos Business School for hosting us on this special occasion. This school is one of the finest academic institutions on the African continent. And I feel a deep personal connection having once served on its board. It is fitting that we begin this knowledge and leadership series here with an audience of young people so central to shaping the future of monetary policy and nation building. Today marks the first edition of the Central Bank of Nigeria Governor's Lecture, part of our new knowledge acceleration and thought leadership series. Ladies and gentlemen, let me say that thought leadership, for me, is something that is very, very dear to my heart. We have amongst the best that the world has to offer. And there's absolutely no reason, in my view, why we should not be at the forefront of thought leadership. This platform is a deliberate effort to bridge policy and practice and to nurture a culture of informed, value-driven leadership. It is also the first of what we hope will become a series of engagements with institutions of higher learning across Nigeria. I understand that several universities are represented here today, and I've met a number of the students. Very impressive. This is especially encouraging because this is the inaugural session. I thought it best to share just a few brief reflections to set the tone and then, more importantly, to engage directly with you in conversation. The aim is not only to communicate what we do at the central bank, but also to deepen national debate on the choices and responsibilities that shape Nigeria's future. This dialogue assumes particular salience precisely because of the demographic constituency in this room. As of mid-2025, more than half of Nigeria's population fall below the age of 30, with a national median age of 18 years. Such demographic indices situate Nigeria not only amongst the youngest polities globally, but also amongst those most richly endowed with prospective human capital. In this sense, you, the emergent cohort of scholars, professionals, and civic actors, are not simply interlocutors in this exchange. You constitute its very epistemic and developmental subject. Why does next generation leadership matter so much for monetary policy? Because monetary policy is not just about rates or inflation targets. It is about trust, stability, and the collective confidence of millions of economic actors who make decisions every day. Strong institutions, resilient economies, and sustained prosperity are all anchored on the strength of leaders who can set a vision, make tough decisions, and build credibility. For central banking, leadership means being disciplined enough to protect price stability while staying agile enough to adapt to shocks and forward-looking enough to anticipate change. When I assumed office as governor in 2023, Nigeria's economy faced formidable headwinds. Inflation was spiraling, external reserves were strained, investor confidence was shaken, and nearly every macroeconomic indicator was under pressure. It was a moment that demanded not just technical skill, but leadership rooted in courage, credibility, and accountability. we had to act decisively to rein in inflation. We tightened policy aggressively, raising rates by more than 800 basis points and strengthening liquidity management. We restored orthodoxy by halting central bank financing of government beyond statutory limits and re-anchoring monetary policy on its core mandate. On foreign exchange, we introduced a willing buyer, willing seller framework, unified exchange rate windows, and cleared the backlog of verifiable foreign exchange commitments, restoring market confidence. We strengthened reserves, now standing above 42 billion US, and created new channels for diaspora remittances and investments, including the non-resident BVN platform, which allows Nigerians abroad to open accounts seamlessly from anywhere in the world. On financial inclusion, we expanded mobile and agency banking to underserved communities, raising access from 56% in 2020 to over 64% in 2025, and commenced the recapitalization of banks to ensure a stronger, more resilient financial system. At the same time, the macroeconomic landscape reveals that Nigeria is navigating a delicate but discernible turning point. Inflation, which only recently peaked at almost 35%, has moderated to about 20% and continues on a disinflationary path. Real GDP expanded by 4.2% in the second quarter, signaling the reemergence of growth momentum. Capital flows are rebounding. Sovereign credit ratings have improved, as seen in the credit default swap curve, and the Naira is beginning to stabilize. I must say that normally when I give a speech and mention how the Naira is beginning to stabilize, the applause I get is much louder than this one. Together, these shifts suggest more than a cyclical adjustment. They mark the outlines of a developmental inflection point where investor confidence is gradually restored and Nigeria positions itself 2 years on at the threshold of structural renewal and long-term transformation. But this is only the beginning. The real task is to ensure that these hard-won gains translate into durable prosperity, especially for the next generation. And this is where leadership becomes critical. Rather than speaking in abstracts, let me share a few lessons from my own journey, beginning as a young trainee at Citibank overseas, then later serving as the Pioneer Commissioner for Economic Planning in Lagos State, and then returning to lead as Chairman of Citibank Nigeria, mentoring graduate students worldwide as a board member of the Harvard Kennedy School Global Alumni, and now serving as governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. First, credibility is everything. In central banking, as in life, credibility is the most valuable currency. Leaders of tomorrow must embrace transparency, evidence, and data-driven decision-making. That is why the CBN is deepening research partnerships with institutions such as yours and strengthening policy communication. Second, the future is digital. Payments, credits, savings, investment, and more are being redefined by fintech and digital platforms. The leaders who will thrive are those who embrace innovation without losing sight of stability, inclusion, and trust. At the central bank, our regulatory sandbox and digital payment frameworks are part of preparing Nigeria for its digital financial future. Third, leadership in monetary policy cannot be divorced from nation building. Price stability is essential, but in a country as young as Nigeria, it must go hand in hand with inclusion and economic diversification. Our task is to foster a stable macroeconomic environment where productivity thrives and opportunity flourishes. Finally, thought leadership requires dialogue. That is why we have launched this lecture series. It is not just about central bankers speaking to students. It is about building a community of inquiry, co-creating ideas, and passing knowledge across generations. Today's undergraduates and graduates will be tomorrow's ministers, entrepreneurs, innovators, and central bankers. You must prepare now, not only to inherit leadership, but to transform it. As I conclude, let me share a personal reflection from just 2 days ago, our Independence Day, when Nigeria marked 65 years of nationhood. I had the privilege of attending the reopening of the National Theatre, now renamed the Wole Soyinka Theatre for Culture and the Creative Arts. For decades, that theatre had fallen into disuse, but the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Bankers Committee, working with the Lagos State government and the Ministry of Art, Culture, and the Creative Economy, restored it to life. That project went far beyond restoring a physical structure. It was about restoring pride in what it means to be Nigerian. And this brings me to the point about reputation being one of the most valuable assets a person, an institution, or a nation can possess. However, as Nigerians, we are often the first to run ourselves down. Make no mistake, criticism, and in particular, constructive criticism, has its place because it keeps us accountable. But if all we do is criticize ourselves, we risk eroding our credibility both at home and abroad. That said, we cannot also ignore the reality that life remains hard for many Nigerians, nor deny that leadership has sometimes fallen short. Yet, reputation matters. When it falters, confidence weakens and opportunities narrow. But when it is rebuilt, confidence returns, capital flows, and stability takes root. I have seen this at the central bank, where restoring credibility has opened new possibilities. And it is you, the next generation of Nigerians, who will carry this reputation forward, shaping how your nation is seen and showing the world a nation that is resilient, creative, and determined to rise. I also mentioned the theater for another reason. Some of the banks that supported its rebirth are represented here today. And the president himself was clear. His insistence on reviving the theater was rooted in that belief. Nigeria's most important asset is its next generation. And so, I say this directly to you, the young people here. I know these are defining times to be young. The world you inherit carries daunting risks, but also extraordinary opportunities, from digital currencies to artificial intelligence, reshaping careers and economies, climate change testing our resilience, to wars and nationalism withdrawing global dynamics. Yet, you are the most mobile-first, connected, and creative generation the world has ever seen. The genius of this moment is that it is both testing and inspiring. Perseverance, though it may sound cliché, is your greatest ally. Stay the course. Lean into these challenges with creativity and courage, because history shows that disruption often creates the conditions for the most transformative breakthroughs. For our part, rest assured that at the central bank, we will not be deterred in building an institution you can trust, one that is disciplined, innovative, and steadfast in its commitment to Nigeria's future. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me close with this. Stability is not an end in itself, but the foundation on which we must build growth, inclusion, and renewal. The journey ahead demands credibility emanating from discipline, because credibility once lost is hard to regain. Innovation, because tomorrow's problems cannot be solved with yesterday's tools, and inclusiveness, because policy means little if it does not improve the lives of ordinary people. This is what next generation leadership requires. Leadership that is data-driven, yet people-centered, courageous, yet humble, visionary, yet accountable, determined to build not just for today, but for generations unborn. Nigeria's story is still being written, and it is you, the next generation, whether here at Lagos Business School or from other institutions represented today, who will hold the pen, or should I say, the digital device. Thank you, and God bless you all.
I think that the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, deserves another round of applause for such an engaging, timely, and intentional keynote address. You may please be seated. Thank you, Mr. Governor, for your address and your remarks this morning. One of the things that stood out to me in Mr. Cardoso's remarks is the need for dialogue. He reiterated this a couple of times, and the need for dialogue specifically with the younger generation, whom our legacies will be passed on to. And we can all agree that if there is no passing down of knowledge, of experience, then there is no legacy. And so to this, which I'm sure that the younger generation in the room and everyone here present is excited about, we will be having a fireside chat, which is why we've asked the governor to kindly join us on stage before he goes back to his seat in the audience. And before I introduce the moderators who would be engaging in discourse with Mr. Cardoso this morning, I'd like to announce that we have a QR code that will be displayed at different points during the fireside chat. Now, if you scan this QR code, it will take you to a platform called Slido, where you can leave your questions. And when we get to the question and answer segment of the fireside chat, your questions can be asked. This is for those of us in the auditorium to take note of, and for those in the overflow as well. The QR code will be displayed at multiple times. Please scan it, and you can leave your questions for the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria on there. Without further ado, let me introduce the gentleman and lady who will be leading the conversation, titled Next Generation Leadership in Monetary Policy and Nation Building. I will start with Oluwakemi Samuel. Oluwakemi Samuel is an accomplished entrepreneur and certified professional, currently pursuing a Master of Science in Management at Lagos Business School, complementing her academic background in economics. She is the founder and lead designer of Design Fantasy, an established event decoration firm in Lekki, Lagos. Her dedication to service excellence is underpinned by professional training as a quality service professional at the Service Quality Institute in Minneapolis of the United States of America. Committed to youth development, she's a certified teen coach, passionate about the next generation. She currently works with the John Maxwell Leadership Foundation, contributing to leadership development, coaching, and training for emerging young leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our first moderator, Ms. Oluwakemi Samuel, as she comes forward. Thank you. Joining her to moderate this fireside chat is a final year economics student at Pan Atlantic University with a strong academic performance. As an accredited accounting technician, AAT, with ACA in view, with a keen interest in the Nigerian economy, particularly in how monetary and fiscal policies can drive sustainable growth. Chukwudalu Orafu has professional experience at Ernst & Young, Nigeria, in the Strategy and Transactions Division, and previously interned at EcoBank in Sales and Operations. He also served as the secretary of the Pan Atlantic University Investment Banking Club and remains passionate about connecting economics, finance, and policy to real-world impact. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, please welcome Mr. Chukwudalu Orafu as he joins this fireside chat as the moderator. And of course, our main chief of discussion needs no introduction, but I'd love for you to welcome again the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, as he sits on this panel. My able moderators, over to you.
Good morning, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to welcome you to this fireside chat. Welcome our faculty, staff, and students of Pan Atlantic University, University of Lagos, Lagos State University, and Yaba College of Technology. I thought you appreciate and celebrate your school by a better round of applause. My name is Oluwakemi Samuel. I'll be moderating this session alongside my colleague, Chukwudalu Orafu.
We'll also be welcoming Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria to our fireside chat. The reason why we're here is to simplify monetary policies, discuss the impact of recent CBN policies in Nigeria, and also link monetary policies to nation building in Nigeria.
Okay, since we are talking about the next generation, we're going to put our governor on the spot just a tiny little bit. Mr. Governor, sir, Davido, Wizkid, or Burna Boy? Okay, my second question. That's how elders try to trick us with wisdom. He said it's a tie. We'll take that. Okay, our second question will be, if monetary policy was a song, what song would that be?
I love monetary policy.
That's Mr. Governor's next album. Thank you very much, sir.
Mr. Governor, I have two more questions for you. What's the difference between a Nepo baby and a Lapo baby?
I'm not about to tell you.
And last one, for all football lovers out here, Messi or Ronaldo? Last question for you, Messi or Ronaldo? Or Ronaldo?
Ronaldo.
Mr. Governor, you just gave Ronaldo's fans a lot of edge over us. Thank you very much for answering those questions. You're welcome once again to this fireside chat. Now to start. Many students view CBN as a complex institution. Unlike me and Chukwudalu here, who studied the best course in the world, you can guess.
Say that again.
Economics. Thank you. So we have students in Nigerian institutions like Mass Comm, engineering, that might not understand what CBN as an institution is. For us, we studied it like everywhere, every day. So could you please break down the primary tools the CBN is currently using? Oh, pardon me, sorry. How does the CBN's decision to adjust the monetary policy rates directly impact everyone's daily life, like from the cost of the plate of food to future job prospects?
Thank you very much. Now, let me first say that the work of the central bank on the outside may appear very complex, but it really is not. And that is why, contrary to what you may think, you'll find that there are people who work in the central bank who have multidisciplinary skills. They're not all economists. They're not all finance people. There are people who have started off with disciplines that may not be seen as relevant, but they come in, they have what it takes to build a career, and they are given the exposure and the training to make that accelerated move up the curve. Okay, and they do very well. They do extremely well. So I just thought it was important to put that out first and foremost, that this, though it may appear complex, I don't want anybody to be dissuaded into thinking that it is such a complex institution that you may not have the skills and you young ones may not want to apply. You should. Don't feel intimidated by it at all. So that's number one. As I said, it's in very simple terms. It is not, there's nothing complex about it with respect to our overarching objectives with monetary policy rates, which you are asking about. It is basically, put in very simple terms, it's an attempt to influence the decisions of operators within an economy. It's an attempt to influence that. And there are different ways of doing it. Okay. One of the major ways that the central bank deploys, okay, is what you've referred to, the policy rates. And in a situation where we believe that there's excessive demand, okay, you can increase rates. That way, there's more of an inclination for people to want to save, and that dampens demand. And conversely, on the other way around, you can also encourage those who are saving to start to spend when interest rates go down. Okay. Now, having said that, of course, it's a very delicate balance. It's a very delicate balance because if you don't get that balance right, the outcome could be negative in terms of productivity and in terms of stability. So it's critical that we use that tool, in addition to other variables, to ensure that at all points in time, we're able to manage excesses within the economy and keep out distortions.
All right. Thanks for your answer. All right, Governor, you mentioned price stability as the core mandate. I've also seen inflation as the key topic of discussion. Please, what are the primary tools CBN uses to curb inflation? How can we measure the success in the eyes of an average Nigerian?
Well, this is a very good question. And it's one that obviously bothers any central banker because we fully appreciate the fact that inflation is a tax on hard-earned earnings. And for that reason, we use, middle of which interest rates, we use other tools like the certain ratios that we give out to the banks. And if you follow every 2-monthly monetary policy circular, you'll see us making reference to things like the liquidity ratio, the corridor for interest rates. These are all designed to ensure that at any point in time, we're able to get in control of excess liquidity. And when we feel that the liquidity is coming down, we're able to, let go a little bit. For example, you'll find that in the last Monetary Policy Committee meeting, after 5 years, really, about 5 years, interest rates, MPR was brought down by about 0.5%, by 0.5%. And that, again, sends a signal as to where we see the financial markets moving. Having said that, it's also important to say that in terms of how do we judge, because this is a question you're asking, how do we know and feel comfortable that we are succeeding? That's a very important point. And the answer to that, as far as I can see, is that we cannot but continue on a path which takes down inflation down to single digits. It won't happen overnight, but it will be a mistake for us to think that, it's easing, therefore we can go to sleep. No, we will not do that. Okay. The idea is to ensure that in the medium term, we achieve single-digit interest rates. Single-digit inflation, I beg your pardon.
Before we proceed, a quick reminder, QR code showing on your screen. If you have questions for the governor, we'll only be taking questions from generated from this QR queue.
So, Mr. Governor, reflecting on your 2 years in office, one of the major reforms has been the unified market exchange rate system. Could you walk us through your philosophy behind that and any unforeseen challenges you have faced and the expected outcome of that policy?
Yes. Well, this obviously is a question that is dear to everybody's heart. You know, foreign exchange market is dear to everybody's heart. No question about it. Now, if you recall, at one point in time, the foreign exchange market was one where there were multiple windows and where some people had access to foreign exchange at a particular rate, while most others didn't. And there was a need to close that gap and ensure that everybody had access to these rates at the same price. Today, happily, I think the records speak for themselves. And the journey was quite a long and tortuous one. But I think we're at the stage now where, again, it was something I said when I took office. I said that by the time I leave the central bank, you won't have to know anybody to get your business done. And I was particularly referring to the issue of foreign exchange, in addition to other things. But that was very critical because, as I say, it's something that was dear to everybody's heart. Before you travel, everybody want to buy BTA, you have to know somebody to get your dues and all that. You know, that is not a sustainable model. And obviously, as you know, now it's a different story. And with the aid of a lot of the banks, the CEOs are here, and I say a big thank you to all of them. Now you can, and I think it's most of them anyway, you can use your Naira debit card when you travel outside, unlike before, where it was really pie in the sky. So I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. It's transformative. It's not something that I would say is a flash in the pan. It isn't. It is here to stay, and you can be sure that going forward you will continue to see this kind of initiatives which will encourage foreign exchange inflows into the economy.
Thank you, sir. Still talking about foreign exchange. During your keynote address, you mentioned that the CBN focused on clearing forex backlog and improving market transparency. You just mentioned things you want us that in the future people can run their businesses without knowing anybody. Now, for business leaders in our audience, what specific measures has the CBN in place to ensure transparency is not just a promise, but a sustainable practice? And you also mentioned being in a digital world.
The digital world.
Yes, sir. So how has the CBN been using, or what does the CBN to use to improve technology in its operations to make them more open and accountable to the public?
Well, this is so many questions in one, but let me try and... the issue of clearing the backlog. You know, in my speech, I was talking about credibility. And that is at the heart of any central bank. If you don't have credibility, people do not trust you and they do not invest in you. When I took office, I made a promise. We would clear the backlog, the verifiable backlog of monies that were owed by Nigeria to third parties. And it was at the time estimated at over $7 billion US. And to be honest with you, I had no idea how I was going to do it. But I just felt it was not something to be negotiated. We needed to ensure that we protected and we maintained our integrity. How we would do that, we would have to sort it out. And as we began to understand the issues better, we got a forensic audit, which was done, and Based on those recommendations, we paid the backlog of foreign exchange transactions and thereby made a huge sacrifice. And why do I say it's a huge sacrifice? I will tell you why. Because some people could have argued that why pay it? It didn't take place when you came there. And who knows, why not, put existing obligations first and worry about that later. But I said, no, we cannot afford to do that. We're a going concern, and if we expect people to continue to trust and invest in our economy, you've got to keep your promises. I have no idea in my mind, by the way, that particular action contributed in no small way, and it may not appear to many as such, but it contributed in no small way to the rise in foreign exchange reserves that we have been able to accomplish. People come to you, they invest in you when you have credibility and they trust you. They don't put things with you and go away and come back and ask for it back and say, oh, I don't have it to give you. So we're a central bank, and for us, that is very, very, very key. You speak about, and you asked about transparency. Part of the transparency, quite frankly, is the conversation we are having here. I need not be here. But I think that it is critical that we are out there having open discussions, you asking questions, which will lead to many others, and being open about the things we do. If you watch our monetary policy efforts on a bi-weekly, every two months, you'll find that after the MPC, the Monetary Policy Committee, has met, there's an open question and answer session, which is televised live. That, again, is part of transparency. It used that as an opportunity to engage, to explain, and to open yourself up to scrutiny. Also, if you've been following, last year there was a lot of inquiry. Actually, it had been coming from previous years, but it sort of spiraled into end of 2024, where a lot of the international investors, in particular, wanted to know what our net reserves position was. And when they came to me, I assured them that by the end of the year, rather than giving you a figure that is not audited, wait till the end of the year. At the end of the day, we will publish it and it's audited. And that's exactly what we did. Contrary to the skeptics, many thought it wouldn't happen. We gave a drop-dead date of 31st, I think it was either December or January, maybe January, I think, because of the audit. And we published it, and people were very surprised. The international investors were very surprised we did it. But again, it gave a lot of confidence in the central bank. Also, with the publishing of our financial statements. For years, the financial statements of the central bank had not been published. And we have gone ahead to publish it. It's on our website, and you're all invited to come and have a look when you want to.
Mr. Governor, sir, the question on technology, how is CBN using technology to make its operations more open and accountable?
That's a very good question. Sorry, I missed that. You know, with regards to the foreign exchange market, because it's important to say this, because again, this has been very fundamental to the reforms. Very fundamental. We adopted a B-matching electronic system, whereby the goings on in the market are open and very transparent. In other words, people can have access and see what rates are being paid and see what is actually going on in that market. We felt this was very, very important because in previous systems, you had a situation where some had access to some information, others didn't. But now with the B-matching system, that is minimized significantly greatly. The market has almost become like a perfect market. And the reason we adopted that is to ensure that it was open and transparent. And let's face it, a lot of people deal with central banks on the basis of trust. They need to know that when they are coming to invest in our economy, what they see is exactly what it is. So we will continue in that direction.
Thank you very much, sir. Beyond macroeconomic stability, nation building involves creating opportunities for young people, in particular areas like financial inclusion and support for small and medium-scale businesses. How does the CBN policies contribute to building a more inclusive economy where young graduates can thrive as entrepreneurs rather than just job seekers?
Well, again, I think that there's something that I want to emphasize, and I know many of you here, practically all of you, would have been hearing about this before. But you will hear it now, and you will hear it from me going into the future, certainly into the short term. And that is stability. Stability. The Central Bank of Nigeria has been able to accomplish stability. And we will fight and protect and do everything that needs to be done to maintain that. Because without stability, the things you are asking about can't happen. They can't happen. You can wish them to, but the serious investors will run away. Now, you are seeing more and more interest in Nigerian economy because of how people, investors, now perceive stability in the economy. Nobody wants to lose money. Nobody wants to invest and lose money. And when I say that, not only large, but even the small, micro, the ones you're asking about, why should they have to deal with all the difficulties involved in running a business and have instability with it? Why? No reason. And that is our job. That is our work. If we fail in that, we failed in being an effective central bank. So the answer to your question is that we will protect the stability that we have been able to accomplish and make sure that the growth that is desired, which will come from stability, will now kick in. And in actual fact, it has started to, because if you look at the results from the last quarter, you will see that growth has gone up quite remarkably. And we believe that that journey will continue.
All right, Mr. Governor. This series is about next generation leadership. Looking ahead, what emerging global economic trends like digital currency do you think will shape the future of central bank in Nigeria? And also, what advice would you give to our students here today who aspire to be leaders in building Nigeria's economic future?
Okay. Thank you both. These are very good questions, I must say. Like you said, you kept me on my toes here. Two questions in one, but let me answer the first one. The future. Digitization and AI, I believe, will be very, very key to the future effectiveness of any central bank. And let me say something here. You know, we have adopted digitization and AI, okay, in various places in the central bank, in various ways over a period of time. But what we've done more recently is really quite transformative. More recently, what we've done is a commitment to full and proper digitization. And one of the first steps we've taken in that is to make sure that our processes, our approvals are all digitized. So we run paperless office in Central Bank now. Also, AI was used in some places. But what we've now done, because we believe very strongly that the tone has got to be set from the top. Recently, the Central Bank of Nigeria held a board of directors held a retreat. They held a retreat. And the topic of that retreat was digitization and AI. Because for us, that's the future. And expecting others to do it when you are not, it is going to suboptimize. So for us, it was key that that zone is set from the top. We see the future in terms of digitization and AI, and we embrace it fully. Now, for those of you, which was the second question about the young ones and the future. Honestly, for me, I think something I've made mention of in my speech, and that is that you must do everything. You must do everything to protect your hard-earned work and hard-earned credibility. This is not something for you to take lightly. Don't think that the CBN governor just came here and said some nice fancy words and went away. No. It will take you very, very, very far. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, without it, you will not get to what all those of you in this room aspire to be. And also, you must stay the course. Don't get discouraged, because it is very easy to get discouraged. Don't be. It is like what Nigeria has been going through. And what I told you about monetary policy. A lot of the greatest challenges for us is to stay the course. It's not easy. It's easier to say it than to actually implement it, because the headwinds come from places you least expect. But you have to have the courage, the determination, and the strength of character to stay the course. That is it.
If you are clapping for the governor, I think you can do much better. Those were powerful insights, I must say. Thank you, sir. Quickly, we'll be going straight to our curated question and answers. If you haven't sent yours yet, I think we'll be taking just a few. Okay, I was just saying the most popular question on the platform. Mr. Governor, sir, will the CBN consider creating a youth advisory council for fresh ideas in monetary policy discussions, or offer internships to university undergraduates? These people, they are shooting their shots, right? I love it. Yes, sir.
Well, look, let me first say that for us, the role of the central bank is one of doing some of the things you are asking about, but more importantly, being a catalyst to make sure that others do it. And we're committed to that. We're committed. We can't do everything, but we must act as a catalyst for those many, some in government, some in private sector, who trust, who believe, will join us in the train of ensuring that we encourage the youth to get their greatest potential. So the answer to that, in very broad terms, is yes, yes, and yes.
So we have another question. What role does innovations such as digital currencies, fintech, and blockchain play in shaping the future of monetary policy in Nigeria?
Well, the answer to that, to be honest, is I think it does have a role to play. To what extent it will, I think a lot of things are unfolding, and we will take them as they come. However, something that we are looking at right now, okay, and perhaps also pertains, this answer somewhat pertains to the previous question, and that is we are looking at the whole concept of innovation. Okay, we believe, and that we've been looking at different structures all over the world, and we believe that we do need to have a clearly defined roadmap, okay, on innovation and the process of embracing digital technology. Now, we already have a couple of initiatives that are going around on this, and we put some experts together to look at that space, digital currencies. We're doing that, but it's early times yet. But as I say, I do believe that there's certainly a role to play somewhere.
Thank you, sir. Another question, with fintech and digital currencies rising, how is the CBN adapting monetary policy to the new financial landscape?
Yeah. Well, again, I think some of the things I said then pertain to this, and that is basically that it's work in progress. It's work in progress. It's not something to wish away. Let me just give you some food for thought, because you're all young people here, and I know you'll know what I'm talking about. About 2 years ago, recall the issues with cryptocurrency and Binance. I see you sitting up. I know. And Binance. What happened there? What happened was that suddenly, over a period of time, foreign exchange became very difficult to get. As a result of which, many people, and I don't want to say youngsters, many people turned to crypto. Okay? And a whole architecture, started to evolve there, which in many respects was somehow the regulators left it alone, and people believed that perhaps it didn't exist. Until, of course, certain things happened, and then it became clearer that there was certainly a market there, and that there was a need to understand that market better. We were regarded as having, I don't know how true it is, but some of the statistics that came out put Nigeria as number 2 in terms of cryptocurrency trading. I don't know how true it is, but certainly the volumes of crypto are very large. And as a result of some of those things, of course, the Securities and Exchange Commission have started the process of putting a framework around that. And to be frank, we're deepening collaboration to ensure that all the different regulatory authorities can midwife a process that is sustainable with respect to digital currencies.
Next question. What lessons can the next generation of monetary policy leaders aim to create? What lessons can the next generation of monetary policy leaders learn to create a trustworthy framework for investors?
Yes. I would say that you cannot over-communicate. Monetary policy is traditionally, and not just in Nigeria, by the way, everywhere. So those of you who are experts in this business, who are studying economics and no monetary policy, really, I doff my hats off to you, and I will want to learn from you too. But it is a concept, it's quite a heavy concept for many. So you cannot over-communicate. And you've got to try as much as possible to communicate in as much of a simple language as you can, so at least people understand it. Okay, and I think these are one of the big lessons, because the danger you have in not communicating is that only you alone know what you're doing. And you need people to be carried along, to understand the journey that you're going on, to understand the difficulties, to understand the challenges, so that when you are doing certain things, it's easier for them to come along with you and to have hope for the future, because that is very important.
Final question, Mr. Governor. In one word, what does the future of Nigeria's economy look like to you?
One word. Okay.
Okay, we'll give you a few words.
No, I will end it with one word. One. But let me say something. And I want to use this opportunity of this audience here to say this. Look, we've come a long way. 2 years ago, things were very difficult. Many Nigerians had lost hope. And that's the truth. At that time, people were looking not to exit the door, but the window. They would buy currency, any price. They would get rid of their assets, externalize it, and leave. People even came to me at that time when I took over responsibility and asked me whether I was serious about what I was doing. 2 years later, consistent messaging, consistent policies, doing all the right things, not compromising in your mandate, has taken us to a good place. Now, the numbers speak for themselves. Let me not say is this. Go and look at the numbers. The rating agencies, Fitch, Moody's, read what they write. The World Bank, the developmental agencies, some of the international banks, read what they write. Don't say, I said it. You take the time and go and read it and see exactly what they write. We sitting in the central bank, when people come from outside, we are one of the first places they come to. And we have seen an incredible increase in appetite for Nigeria. If some of you watch television, well, most of you probably are all on digital devices anyway. But if you watch recently, I think 2-3 days ago, one of the leadership of BlackRock came on a visit to Nigeria, and he had an interview and said, for them, this is the time. And so that is one you saw out in public. We see so many of them in private. So many of them in private who have been on the sideline, were not sure, they've watched, and now 2 years later, they are saying, aha, this is the time to get in. So, in one word, the future for Nigeria is bright.
Thank you so much, Mr. Governor, for such candid and insightful conversations. Your insight on the balance between reforms, the vision for nation building, and the demands of future leadership has been incredibly valuable.
The key takeaway for us today is that monetary policy is not just about the numbers. It's about we, the people. It's about progress. It's about building a resilient nation. On behalf of the students of Pan Atlantic University, University of Lagos, Lagos State University, Yaba College of Technology, we sincerely thank you, Mr. Governor, for those insightful conversations you had with us. Please, can you give the governor a big and a better round of applause? So before the governor goes, right, this is the next generation. We're going to do two things. So every picture you've seen of the governor, he always has this straight face. Yeah, a little bit. That's our backside. So we're going to have him have a cheeky, fun face, and we're going to take a selfie. Okay? Gen Zs, ignore these elders in front of us. You know how we do it, right? So, Mr. Governor, please step forward, sir. And we're going to back the audience and take a selfie with the most fun face you've ever given us. So I'm going to come to this side. Are we ready? Okay.
I see all his 32 shining.
Okay, the second that we're going to shout, I'm the next generation leader. Are we ready? 1, 2, go.
I'm the next generation leader.
You didn't say it like you meant it. Say it again.
I'm the next generation leader.
And with that, let's give a good round of applause for our governor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. We'd like to kindly ask that we just wait behind, sir. Apologies, for a quick photograph with the moderators, please. Thank you so much. You may please be seated. Another round of applause for our wonderful moderators, the Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Mr. Governor, I'm sure that this is a fireside chat that you will not forget in a long time. I mean, how often do we have panel moderators who are able to, in the middle of heated, thick conversations, make you debate against sports and music and rap? Thank you very much to our moderators. Would like to say a very big thank you to Mr. Governor one more time. Thank you for being very hospitable and for entertaining all of our questions. A round of applause as he goes back to his seat. Thank you very much. And of course, to our moderators who did a fantastic job. Would like to thank Ms. Oluwakemi Samuel and Mr. Chukwudalu Orafu. Thank you very, very much. We'll take the vote of thanks next, and a few announcements before we sing the third stanza of the national anthem and we round off for today. And to take us in the vote of thanks, would like to welcome an MMBA 7 student here at Lagos Business School, Miss Mona Lisa Mache. Please let's put our hands together for her as she comes forward. Thank you very much. A resounding round of applause as she comes. Thank you, thank you. For those who have not accompanied the governor, would like to kindly ask that you please remain on your seats. We have an order in which we'll exit the hall. So please kindly stay on your seats and we'll let you know how to leave and when to leave. Thank you. Once again, another round of applause for Ms. Mona Lisa Mache as she gives us a vote of thanks.
Hello, everyone. Have we had a good day today? You know, so much has been said around inflation rates and interest rates and liquidity policies. And I just wonder, for you, the student, what can you take away? What does all of this mean to you? Whether you're a professional, an undergrad, a regular guy struggling with downfall problems, you know, it's important that we understand that even though you are not in a position now where you're leading an organization as powerful as the CBN, wherever you are in your life and whatever work you are doing, it is very important. And please understand that the fundamental principles that we have heard here today around excellence and ethics and integrity, they will always be markers and they will always be necessary for your success. Because no one is going to make any excuses for you. And honestly, I'm very glad that you have made the time to be here today because it tells me that you take your future seriously. And on that note, I would like to thank our governor in absentia for making the time to be here. He did not have to, but he chose to because he thought that you were worthy. And I'd like to thank the organizers, of this event, everyone who poured in anything, time, money, energy, resources, to put this vision together. We're very grateful. We see you. We honor you. And to everyone who has made the time to be here today. You are indeed, as we have heard, Nigeria's most important asset. And so the choices that you make define not just your future, but the future of this nation. And so I encourage you to take the things that we have learned here today very seriously. I am rooting for you, and I hope to see you one day on big stages like this. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mona Lisa Mache, for giving us the vote of thanks. As mentioned, we'll announce very quickly the order in which we'll exit the hall. We'd like to kindly make a few announcements, starting with the fact that our guests are invited to the foyer to enjoy some cocktails after now. So please, if you are one of our guests, don't be in a hurry to leave. Just at the foyer, just outside here, you have some cocktails waiting, some light snacks. We invite you to join us. For our students, you are not left out. We have packed food for you and some packed items. And I will announce the order in which we'll receive them for those of us in the overflow and for those of us in the auditorium at the moment. We'd like to kindly request that guests remain seated and the ushers will direct us in the order in which to leave after we sing the third stanza of the national anthem. A very, very important announcement is that beyond this room, beyond today, we encourage each and every one of us to go ahead and continue these conversations. We are the digital era, so please continue these conversations across all digital platforms, and let's make it known what has been done here today. We'd also like to ask you to kindly watch out for the next edition of the CBN Governor's Annual Lecture Series, taking place in 2026 by the grace of God. Once again, let me announce very quickly that we remain seated for about 5 minutes after the third stanza of the national anthem, so that we have an orderly procession out of the hall. The food packs and the takeaway packs will be shared, starting with the students and the people in the Coca-Cola classroom, and then we'll move on to the GT Bank classroom, the Intercontinental Bank classroom, IMRC, and then for those of us in the auditorium, I'll take that one more time. We'll start with the Coca-Cola classroom, the GT Bank classroom, the Intercontinental Bank classroom, the IMRC, and then we'll come to those of us in the auditorium. My name is Onyinyechi Aderibebe. It's been my absolute pleasure being your host today. My last request of you is to kindly ask you to rise to your feet as we take the third stanza of our national anthem, and then remain seated after that, and we'll be directed on how to exit the hall. Thank you very much. Please remain on your seats. Thank you for being here. And a round of applause for yourselves. Thank you and God bless you. Thank you for being here. Please, just for 5 minutes, my apologies.